Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the law enforcement professionals that are here with us today. I'd like to communicate clearly to Americans that are joining us today through this televised hearing, address the elders of the communities across America. Let me clarify a few things so you can grasp what we're dealing with in the country right now. The United States is currently undergoing and a horrific drug epidemic crisis. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid, is 80 to 100 times stronger than morphine. According to the DEA, our own Drug Enforcement Administration, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can kill a person by ingestion, inhalation, or even absorption through the skin. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death of Americans 18 to 45 years old. The Customs and Border Patrol have seized enough fentanyl just last year to kill 2.4 billion people. That's over 7 times the population of the United States of America. I hope America is paying attention to what I'm sharing here today. It should come as no shock, a reasonable assessment of what's happening at our southern border. Every American will look at that. Record numbers of illegal crossings driven by cartels that make their monies from trafficking drugs and human beings. It's a reasonable and pretty easy connection to make to understand that illegal crossings at the border that's out of control by any measure is directly related to the opioid crisis that we're suffering as a nation right now and the deaths that we're experiencing. 107,000 Americans died from opioid overdose last year. We've never seen numbers like this before. No matter where you are in law enforcement, this is touching your community. If you're an elder of your community, you know, youngsters from your area that you love and care for, they've suffered loss, deaths. These kids are taking pills that are pressed by dealers with equipment they're buying online or building themselves to make pill presses out of raw materials that they're getting from somewhere, and it might be a clue where they're getting it from if you look at our southern border. This is just reality. And my colleagues like to use percentages across the aisle, have graphs like this. They're entertaining, but no more, because they talk about percentages of seizures. And obviously, at our ports of entry of large ships or trucks, professional law enforcement intercepts large shipments and quantities of drugs based upon investigative work and data from confidential informants. You don't stumble across a large shipment of drugs on the highway, in the belly of a ship, or hidden in the cargo of a truck. You don't stumble across that stuff. You're watching for that vessel. You're watching for that vehicle. You intercept it when it comes into your jurisdictional authority, and if your confidential informant was right, you have a big drug seizure. You law enforcement guys know that what I'm saying is true. So, of course, you can intercept a large volume and quantity of drugs in the holds of a ship as compared to on a backpack carried across the border. My colleagues like to say that migrants seeking asylum are not impacting this drug crisis. That's intellectually unsound and even disingenuous, because the young men that are crossing our border, I think we're pushing 1 million last year and this year. The official number is about 400,000 last year, unknown this year. They're called gotaways because they got away. They're not seeking asylum. Seeking asylum requires interaction with law enforcement professionals at the border to begin your process of asylum. You don't do that with a backpack of drugs. I'm asking America to be genuine about this conversation. On my side of the aisle, we want to have this conversation so that we can give the law enforcement professionals the assets and the assistance they need to do their job and restore American sovereignty at our southern border and save America from death by overdose that we're experiencing right now. But we cannot allow ourselves to be pulled into this false narrative of that. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Nothing here to see. Move along. He had 2.4 million illegal crossings last year, 500,000 gotaways. He's a stout young man, and a lot of them are carrying backpacks with drugs in them. And it does not take a lot of fentanyl to produce thousands and thousands and thousands of pills that are pressed to look like Xanax and Lortab and OxyContin, and they're sold on the streets for $5, $10, $15, $25 a pop at parties where your teenagers are going. And they're buying these pills and they're dying. So I encourage all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to engage honestly about what's happening in America today. I very much look forward to hearing from our law enforcement professionals today. Madam Chair, I yield.